Hey there, everybody. Welcome back. We're going to dive on into chapter 25 today. This chapter will be broken up into 4 different sections covering basically the 1970s, of roughly 72, 73, up to 1980 and Ronald Reagan. So there's a lot that goes on in this little short period of time with scandals and cover-ups and presidents leaving office and being pardoned and people in the office of presidency that were never really elected to that office. So kind of a crazy time in US history. So I'm going to go ahead and share the slides that go along with this. So the title of this chapter is A Nation Adrift, and the title of this section is The Embattled Presidency. So we start off the chapter right around 1972 with a major scandal. So a group of about 5 burglars were caught breaking into the Republican National Headquarters. This was in the summer of 72. The campaign was in full swing, and these burglars were caught carrying electronic listening devices and basically trying to break into the headquarters of the Democratic National Convention. And if I said that backwards earlier, I apologize. The event didn't cause a whole lot of stir at the time. People weren't really super excited about George McGovern's campaign. He was already kind of in deep trouble there and wasn't looking like it was going to win. But after the election, more about this affair began to leak out, and one of the convicted burglars basically said that somebody higher up was behind it. So they started looking into it, and further investigation revealed kind of this pattern of questionable and illegal activities organized by Nixon's Committee to Re-elect the President. The initials of that committee are CREEP, so the CREEP Committee, or Committee to Re-elect the President. Some of the other problems, the Vice President, Spiro Agnew, resigned. Basically, he's kind of forced to do that after some information came up that he was accepting bribes from contractors while he was the governor of Maryland. And so he kind of was allowed to plead no contest and basically kind of get off with a fine, and basically resigned in October of 1973. So Gerald Ford becomes the vice president. He was selected by the Nixon administration, and he was the House Minority Leader at that time. So Congress confirmed it, and Nixon hoped that Ford's popularity in Congress and his reputation for honesty and integrity would help kind of improve his popularity. So, unfortunately, things get worse for Nixon. It's found out that the president had secretly been recording all the conversations that happened in the Oval Office. You can see a little diagram there. All the blue dots are kind of somebody's hunch of where these devices were placed. Nixon does not want to turn over the tapes. It becomes a big national deal. Slowly he releases like edited manuscripts from the tapes. He releases some of the tapes, but eventually he decides to resign on August 9th, 1974. This is something that he couldn't recover from. This whole Watergate scandal becomes just a national circus, and there's accusations and rumors and televised hearings, and the scandal is constantly before the US public, and there's really no coming back from that. So we now have an unelected president. So Ford, the first thing he does as president is he pardons Richard Nixon for any crimes that he might have committed while he was in office. So that really doesn't make the people excited about Ford. His popularity kind of shrinks a little bit after that. You can see a picture down there, pretty famous picture of Nixon giving his little signal as he is boarding the plane or helicopter and leaving the grounds of the White House for the last time. So Ford's not starting off really well with the American public. He has many obstacles to overcome. First of all, he's unelected. Okay, nobody voted for him for president or even vice president. His vice president that is selected is a guy by the name of Rockefeller. And Nelson Rockefeller, like I said, hadn't been elected by the people. So this is the first time in history that the nation's top two public figures were not elected. The second obstacle was people were pretty critical of Ford. He was an athletic guy, was on the University of Michigan's football team, but there was a series of public accidents, kind of things that just were kind of goofy that happened that the American public got this impression that he was a klutz or a bit of a clumsy person. For example, when he was getting out of the presidential jet, he kind of was going down those stairs, descending, and he stumbled. He accidentally hit spectators with golf balls when he played golf. So people were a little critical of him. Another obstacle was Congress. Congress was pretty hostile. The Democrats held comfortable majorities in both the House and the Senate, and they were determined to basically control the government. And so Ford vetoed a lot of things that Congress had done and overrid many of the things. Congress overrid many of, it says what, 12 of the president's vetoes. So that was one of the highest numbers of overrides since Andrew Johnson, who was president right after the Civil War there. So there was a standoff between Ford and Congress and kind of this deadlock between the two. All right, that takes us to the end of our notes for the first section. So we'll be back here in just a minute for section 2.